Fluent Flow podcast. New videos every day. Let's learn English together.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So glad you're here with us today. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into something, well, truly fundamental to all our lives. It's a resource we all possess, in equal measure, yet managed so differently. We're talking about time itself. And we spent a significant amount of time, ironically enough, digging through an incredibly insightful guide titled Stop Wasting Your Time, which you, our fantastic listener, shared with us. Our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We're here to extract the absolute core wisdom from this material. We want to help you not only recognize those often sneaky time-wasting habits, but more importantly, to arm you with clear, really actionable strategies, the kind you can use to cultivate a more productive and, frankly, a profoundly intentional way of living. So get ready for a practical, insightful, and maybe even a transformative journey into truly making the most of your minutes, your hours, and your days.
It's an incredibly important topic indeed. And what's fascinating here, I think, is just how universally challenging time management can be. It really doesn't matter where you are in the world or what you do, your profession, your aspirations. We all grapple with the same 24 hours, every single one of us. Yet how we choose to utilize those hours, well, that makes all the difference. It impacts our personal growth, our achievements, and, ultimately our sense of fulfillment. And this particular source, the Stop Wasting Your Time guide, it really stands out because it offers a remarkably clear, almost a no-nonsense path forward, which is refreshing. So we'll start by really understanding the irreplaceable nature of time. Then we'll delve into the subtle, often unconscious ways it just slips away from us. And finally, and this is the crucial part, we'll provide concrete, actionable steps you can begin taking today to reclaim it. It's about so much more than just, efficiency checklists. It's really about crafting an intentional life.
That's a perfect framing. Intentionality, that really is the thread woven throughout this entire guide, isn't it? So let's kick things off with the biggest question, maybe the most foundational concept the guide prompts us to consider right away. What is time? I mean, we talk about it constantly, but what is it? The source material gives us this wonderfully simple, yet profoundly impactful definition. It strips away all the abstract stuff, the philosophical notions, and brings it right down to the tangible units of our existence. It says, time is your minutes, your hours, your days. It's so direct, almost blunt, really.
It is, and that simplicity is actually key. It's key to truly grasping its unique and irreplaceable nature. The guide immediately highlights its most critical characteristic, the thing that sets it apart. Once time is gone, it does not come back. Now, this is where time sharply contrasts with almost every other resource we commonly value, and it's a distinction we often, maybe conveniently, overlook. Think about money, for example. The guide explicitly states, you can lose money and get it back, right? You might face financial setbacks, lose an investment, suffer an unexpected expense. It happens. But with effort, with strategic saving, maybe investing or earning more, you can, in many cases, recover those financial losses. There are mechanisms for that. However, and this is the core point, the source makes it unequivocally clear, but you can't get back your time, full stop. Every single minute that passes, every second is genuinely irretrievable, gone forever. You can't rewind the clock, you can't stockpile time for later like you can with savings, and you certainly can't earn back the hours already spent. Yeah. This non-renewability, this is precisely what elevates time. It makes it truly your most valuable tool. It's not just a resource, it's the very fabric of our opportunities. It's our capacity for growth, the foundation upon which we build, everything, our future. It's finite, and that inherent scarcity gives it immense power.
That's such a powerful distinction. It really is. And it's one we often, I think, understand intellectually. But maybe we don't feel it deeply enough in our day-to-day choices.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront how we're really using this precious, finite, non-renewable resource, And the guide puts it perfectly. It asks us directly, almost like a challenge. So ask yourself, how do I use my time? Am I using it to grow, or am I wasting it? Oof. That's a tough question to sit with, honestly. And it doesn't leave us guessing about what wasting time actually looks like in practice. It gives us a very clear, almost punchy, and undeniably relatable list. These are the red flags. Doing nothing for hours, scrolling on your phone too long, delaying what's important, and the kicker, saying, I'll do it tomorrow every day. These are so common, aren't they? I mean, I think we've all found ourselves caught in at least one, probably more, of these traps at some point.
Oh, absolutely. We absolutely have. And what's particularly insightful, I find, is looking at the underlying psychology behind these common behaviors, because they aren't just random habits. Take doing nothing for hours, for instance. This isn't necessarily about intentional rest, like taking a needed break or, mindful downtime. Often it's more like a state of inertia, a kind of mental limbo where you're neither actively recharging nor productively engaging with anything purposeful. It can feel like being stuck, maybe feeling overwhelmed by too many choices, and so you just default to inaction. It's passive. Then scrolling on your phone too long. This taps directly into the frankly, addictive design of modern social media and digital platforms. We know this now. Each notification, each new piece of content, it delivers a tiny hit of dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and reward. And it creates this powerful, almost unconscious loop that's hard to break. This constant stream of low-effort stimulation can just consume vast chunks of our day without us even realizing it, precisely because it's designed to keep us hooked. It's engineered engagement. So it's a very subtle form of digital consumption that can easily become a huge time drain. And then those last 2 points, delaying what's important, and that constant refrain of saying, I'll do it tomorrow every day, they point directly to the pervasive challenge of procrastination, which we'll talk more about. And this isn't just about laziness, not usually. It's often rooted deeper, maybe in a fear of discomfort or a desire for immediate gratification instead of working towards a delayed reward, or simply feeling overwhelmed by the sheer size or complexity of a task. It's that consistent pushing off of the meaningful stuff, deferring it to a future self who we imagine will magically have more energy or motivation, which rarely happens, right? So if we connect this to the bigger picture, understanding that time is finite, truly finite, and then recognizing these common patterns of misuse, that really is the first absolutely crucial step towards valuing it properly. But, and this is important, the guide doesn't just leave us there feeling guilty or overwhelmed. I find that incredibly empowering about it. It offers immediate encouragement. It reminds us, but don't worry, you can change that. And that positive, actionable outlook, that's absolutely critical for moving forward and actually implementing any real change in how we operate. Hope is key.
Yes, that message of hope, you can change that, is so vital. It shifts the whole frame from, self-blame or feeling stuck towards proactive steps we can actually take. And on that exact note, the guide does something incredibly helpful next. It provides these concrete indicators, almost like a diagnostic checklist, for recognizing when our time might be quietly slipping away unnoticed. It transitions right into how to spot those moments when time is truly being wasted, not just used for rest, but actually wasted. And like they say, recognizing the problem is half the solution, right? So what are some of those key signs it wants us to look out for?
Exactly. And let's really dig into each of these 5 signs because they're not just about minutes lost. They're often symptoms of a larger disengagement. A disengagement from our true priorities and, frankly, from our own potential. The first sign is incredibly relatable, especially today. You check your phone every 5 minutes. The guide even specifies. TikTok, Instagram, scroll. That endless scroll. This isn't just a casual glance to check the time or specific notification. This describes a more compulsive, almost reflexive behavior, a habit loop. As we just touched on, these platforms are meticulously designed to be addictive. They're engineered to provide those constant little dopamine hits that keep us coming back, almost mindlessly sometimes. And this incessant fragmented checking of our devices. It makes it incredibly difficult, almost impossible sometimes, to engage in any kind of deep work or focused activity that requires sustained attention. You might block out an hour on your calendar for an important task, but if you're picking up your phone every few minutes, even for just a second, that hour isn't really an hour of focus. It's actually just a series of disconnected microtasks and constant context switching. Psychologists even have a term for this. They call it attention residue. It means that even after you put your phone down and try to switch back to your main task, a part of your brain is still processing what you just saw or thinking about that notification you just dismissed. It lingers. And this significantly reduces your overall cognitive output, the quality of your thinking, and your engagement with the task at hand. It's like, imagine trying to fill a bucket with water while someone keeps poking new holes in the bottom. You expend a lot of effort turning the tap on, but very little water actually accumulates. It's a subtle but absolutely relentless drain on both your time and your mental energy.
Oh, wow. Attention residue. That explains so much. I think we're all guilty of that one, probably more than we'd like to admit. It's just so easy to fall into that trap, that quick check that turns into 10 minutes. It makes me wonder, though, even when we do manage to put the phone down, there's another sneaky way time slips through our fingers. It's something the guide calls out specifically, that habit of saying, I'll start tomorrow. Can you walk us through that one? It feels related, but different.
That's a perfect segue, actually, because the second sign you say, I'll start tomorrow, is perhaps one of the most insidious forms of time wasting. It feels less active than scrolling, but it's just as damaging. The guide adds that crucial qualifier, but tomorrow becomes next week and next month. And suddenly, months or even years can pass. This is the classic pattern of delayed action. It's the insidious creep of procrastination, dressed up as planning sometimes. It's not just about putting off a single unpleasant task, like doing your taxes. It's the continuous, often habitual postponement of important goals and aspirations. The things you say you want to do. We often tell ourselves plausible stories, right? I need more time to prepare, or I need to feel more motivated first, or the conditions aren't quite right yet, or I'll wait for the perfect moment to begin there. But in reality, we're typically just avoiding the discomfort of starting. Or maybe we're avoiding the perceived difficulty of the task, or even a fear of failure. The source explicitly names this behavior using the vocabulary term procrastinate. Procrastinate. It even breaks down the pronunciation, which is helpful. And this behavior, this habit of procrastination, it can derail entire life goals. Not because you lack the ability or the resources or even the desire, but purely from a lack of initiation and consistent follow-through. Just not starting or not continuing. It becomes a self-sabotaging loop. It often leaves us feeling overwhelmed, perpetually behind schedule, maybe stressed, and certainly regretful about all those missed opportunities piling up. It's so easy to defer the effort or the discomfort to our future selves, but inevitably that future self becomes our present self, still facing the same unaddressed challenges, only now with less time and maybe more pressure.
Right. So it's not just about the things we do waste time on, like scrolling, but critically, it's about the important things we don't do, because we keep pushing them off indefinitely. That makes a lot of sense. And the third sign you mentioned, you feel busy but not productive, that one really resonates deeply. That feeling of constantly moving, constantly juggling things, but getting nowhere important, like being stuck on a hamster wheel. I think we all know that feeling intimately. The guide truly nails it when it says, you're doing things, but not the important things. Can you elaborate a bit more on what distinguishes that busy work from truly productive effort? How can we tell the difference in the moment?
Absolutely. And this distinction is crucial because it's a trap many high achievers, people who like being busy, fall into. It feels productive, but it isn't always. Busy work often looks impressive on the surface. Maybe it's a packed calendar, back-to-back meetings, a perpetually full inbox that you're constantly managing, endless data entry, or perhaps hours spent organizing digital files or tweaking a presentation endlessly. You feel active, you're definitely doing things. You might even feel exhausted at the end of the day. But if those activities aren't actually aligned with your core goals, or if they aren't the things that truly move the needle forward on what matters most, then you're engaging in what the experts often call activity without meaningful output, or shallow work. A simple litmus test implied by the source is to constantly ask yourself, does this specific task move me closer to my defined goal? So if your goal, using the guide's example, is to learn to speak English clearly, then spending hours perfecting the font on your flashcards or meticulously color-coding your grammar notes might feel busy. It might even feel like study. But is it truly productive in the context of your overarching goal of speaking clearly? Maybe not as productive as actually, speaking or practicing pronunciation or having a conversation. Productive, as the guide highlights in its vocabulary list, means achieving a significant amount or result. It's fundamentally about effectiveness doing the right things, not just efficiency doing things quickly. You can be incredibly efficient at unproductive tasks. You can efficiently organize your entire email inbox down to 0, which might feel great for a moment. But if none of those emails were actually important or related to your key projects, was it truly productive? Maybe not. This is such a common trap. People feel perpetually exhausted, but they also have this nagging sense deep down that their time isn't being used well. Because they're busy, yes, but not truly building towards anything significant or meaningful to them.
That's a really powerful distinction. The difference between just expending energy and actually generating value or making real progress towards something specific. Activity versus accomplishment. And then the fourth sign the guide points out is you watch many videos, but never practice. This one feels particularly relevant for anyone trying to learn something new, right? Especially a skill, like the English example, but it applies everywhere. It highlights a very common pitfall in our information-rich age.
It absolutely is, and it points directly to what we might call the passive consumption trap. It's so easy to fall into this. In our digital age, information is incredibly abundant. It's overwhelming, almost. We have access to endless tutorials, lectures, demonstrations, guides, courses for virtually any skill imaginable. We can watch countless hours of videos about how to play the guitar, or how to code a website, or how to speak Mandarin, or how to cook French cuisine. It's all out there. But knowledge, especially skill-based knowledge without application, is largely inert. It doesn't translate into ability. The guide emphasizes this brilliantly by creating that stark contrast. Watching many videos versus never practice, the gap between knowing and doing. For someone learning a language, like in the guide's context, this means you can spend hours, days, weeks passively studying grammar rules, listening to vocabulary lists, watching native speakers converse on YouTube or in movies. You can absorb a lot of information about the language. However, if you're not actively using it, if you're not speaking out loud, even just to yourself, if you're not writing sentences, engaging in conversations, however imperfectly, or actively trying to apply what you've learned in real situations, that knowledge isn't truly internalized. It doesn't get cemented into practical skill. It's like, classic analogy, watching countless videos about swimming techniques but never actually getting into the water, or reading dozens of cookbooks but never actually trying to prepare a meal yourself. You know about it, but you can't do it. Real progress, especially in skill acquisition, only happens through active application, through repetition, through feedback, and often through deliberate practice that pushes you just slightly beyond your current comfort zone. This is where learning truly becomes doing. It's where information transforms into tangible ability. Watching is easy, practicing takes effort.
That's a fantastic analogy. It really clarifies the difference between being a spectator in your own learning journey and actually being an active participant. You have to get in the pool, basically. Okay, and the last sign, the fifth one, is quite subtle but incredibly impactful. You feel tired but don't know why, because your energy is lost in distractions. This isn't about physical exertion making you tired. It's something else entirely.
It truly is subtle, and it highlights the often hidden cognitive energy cost of constant mental switching and superficial engagement. It's a different kind of fatigue. When you're perpetually checking your phone, even for a moment, or bouncing between multiple browser tabs, or passively consuming endless streams of bite-sized content, your brain is working. It's active, but it's working incredibly inefficiently. It's constantly having to reorient itself, constantly context switching between different types of stimuli, and dealing with this barrage of low-level information that demands only superficial attention. It never gets to settle into deep focus. This isn't restful, restorative downtime, nor is it deep, productive thought. It's actually a form of cognitive exhaustion. It wears you down mentally. Every time you switch tasks, even for a seemingly brief glance at an email or a social media feed, your brain incurs what neuroscientists call a switching cost. It takes mental energy to disengage from one thing and re-engage with another and then switch back again. These constant micro-switches drain your mental reserves, your willpower, your focus, without providing the satisfaction or the deeper benefits you get from truly focused work or from genuine restorative relaxation. You end up feeling drained but unaccomplished. The source specifically emphasizes the terms distractions and delay in its vocabulary list for a very good reason, and this fifth sign powerfully illustrates why. Distractions don't just consume your precious time, they actively deplete your mental energy and your capacity for focused effort, leaving you feeling drained, unfocused, maybe even irritable, even if you haven't engaged in anything physically demanding or visibly productive in the traditional sense. It's like running a dozen different low-power apps in the background on your phone all at once. No single app seems like a major drain, but cumulatively they kill your battery life surprisingly quickly. That's what constant distraction does to your brain.
Wow. That makes so much sense. It's the cumulative effect of all those little switches. Those 5 signs together really paint a clear and, for many of us, I suspect, a painfully accurate picture of where our time and, maybe even more importantly, our energy truly goes. And to make sure these concepts really stick, the guide helpfully gives us that little vocabulary review, which is fantastic. These are crucial terms for understanding this whole issue, and more importantly, for taking back control. Wasting time, delay, distractions, procrastinate, and productive. I'd really encourage you, our listener, to take a moment and reflect honestly on these 5 signs. Which ones resonate most strongly with your own experience? Recognizing them without judgment is often the very first, most powerful step towards making a meaningful change. Because here's where it gets really interesting. These signs aren't just about the minutes ticking by on the clock. They're profound insights into where our precious mental and emotional energy is truly being allocated, or maybe misallocated.
Precisely. And recognizing these patterns isn't about fostering guilt or beating yourself up. Not at all. It's purely about gaining clarity. It's achieving that foundational insight that once you see it, once you acknowledge it, allows you to begin consciously addressing the problem. And that brings us perfectly and hopefully to the solution-oriented part of this deep dive. Because the guide, thankfully, doesn't just diagnose the problem and leave us there. It provides a clear, very practical, step-by-step roadmap for developing intentional time usage. It's like a blueprint for reclaiming those lost minutes and hours and redirecting them towards what truly matters to you.
Okay, I am ready for those actionable steps. This is where we pivot, right? We go from understanding the problem, maybe seeing ourselves in those signs, to actually doing something about it, moving from recognition to concrete action. So what's the very first step the guide recommends we take on this journey to reclaim our time?
The first step is beautifully simple, yet it's profoundly effective. It's really a bedrock principle of all effective personal development and goal achievement. Step 1 is set a goal. The guide explains this simply as needing to know what you want. Now, this isn't about vague aspirations like, oh, I want to be better or I should exercise more. That's too fuzzy. It's about specificity and clarity. You might have heard of SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This aligns perfectly with that idea. The example given in the guide is excellent because it's concrete. Oh, I want to learn to speak English clearly. That's a specific outcome you can work towards and eventually assess. The importance of having that specific target lies in its power to direct your energy and your time effectively. If your goal is diffuse or unclear, your efforts will likely be scattered too. It's like trying to hit a target you can't quite see clearly. Now, the guide immediately follows this up with a crucial practical question. How much time can I realistically give each day? This acknowledges the constraints of real life. We all have different schedules, different jobs, family commitments, varying energy levels throughout the day and week. It has to fit your life. And crucially, the advice here is incredibly liberating. Start small. 10 minutes is great.
Yeah.
This taps into the profound power of micro-commitments. It is far better to consistently commit to just 10 minutes a day, building a sustainable habit and momentum, than it is to aim for some heroic, unrealistic hour that you maybe do once or twice, can't maintain, feel bad about, and then give up altogether. Small starts build momentum. They significantly reduce the activation energy required to just begin, which is often the hardest part. And they create a sense of achievable progress, which fuels motivation far more effectively than sporadic, large efforts that just lead to burnout. It takes the immense pressure off needing to be perfect right out of the gate and puts the focus squarely on consistent action, however small.
Start small. 10 minutes is great. I love that. It's such an empowering message because it removes that huge barrier of needing to make some massive life-altering change immediately. Just 10 minutes. That feels doable for almost anyone. Okay, so once we have that clear, specific goal and we've committed to a small, manageable chunk of time, what's the next logical step according to the guide?
The second step builds directly on the first one. It's about solidifying that commitment and integrating it into the rhythm of your life. Step 2 is make a schedule. Once you know what you want to achieve, your goal, and roughly how much time you can realistically commit each day, your small start, the next move is to choose a consistent when. The advice here is clear and direct. Choose a time, the same time every day. Consistency is king here. The example given is beautifully straightforward. Good example. I will study English every day at 6 p.m. Or maybe at 7 a.m., or during your lunch break, whatever works consistently for you. The immense power here lies in that consistency, doing the same thing at the same time, ideally in the same place, day after day. This consistency is precisely what makes it a habit. From a neuroscientific perspective, our brains are actually wired to create routines and automate behaviors. It conserves energy. When an activity is performed repeatedly in the same context, like time and place, it gradually moves from requiring conscious effort and decision-making, which consumes precious willpower and mental energy, to becoming a more automatic, subconscious behavior. This significantly reduces what psychologists call decision fatigue. You don't have to wake up each day and decide whether or not you're going to study at 6 p.m. You don't have that internal debate. It's just what happens at 6 p.m. It becomes an anchor in your day. This automation is a cornerstone of sustainable productivity and habit formation because it frees up your valuable mental energy for more complex decisions or challenges you might face later in the day. It helps you bypass that internal resistance, that do I feel like it today question, or get easily sidetracked by external distractions. It's about letting your established system, rather than your fickle moment-to-moment willpower, drive your actions toward your goal.
That makes so much sense. Removing the should I or shouldn't I decision process every single day is a huge energy saver, both mentally and emotionally. It's like putting that specific positive action on autopilot. Okay, so we've got our goal, we've got our small time commitment scheduled consistently. What's step 3? How do we make sure that scheduled time is actually effective?
Step 3 is absolutely crucial for ensuring the effectiveness and focus of that dedicated time slot you've just carved out. Remove distractions. The guide gives us very practical, immediate advice here. Things you can do right now. Turn off your phone, or at least put it on silent, out of sight, out of reach, and find a quiet space. Create an environment conducive to concentration. These are direct, actionable steps to physically engineer your environment for focus, minimizing the potential for external interruptions. But it goes a step further, which I think is really insightful, addressing the often overlooked social aspect of distractions. Tell people, I'm learning now, or I'm working on my project now, or whatever your goal is. This is incredibly powerful, though sometimes uncomfortable for people initially. It's about setting clear boundaries. It's communicating your needs proactively to family, roommates, colleagues, letting them know that during this specific time, you need uninterrupted focus. When you clearly state you're unavailable during your dedicated learning or work time, you manage their expectations, you prevent likely interruptions before they happen, and you also subtly reinforce your own commitment to yourself. It makes it feel more official, more real. The impact of taking these actions, controlling your device, finding quiet, setting boundaries, is significant. As the guide says, when you remove distractions, you use your time with power. Cool. This really refers to enabling yourself to achieve a state of flow, as Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called it, or deep work, as Cal Newport terms it. That state where your attention is completely undivided and all your mental energy is channeled effectively into the task at hand. That's where real breakthroughs happen. In our modern world, which is just saturated with notifications and constant demands vying for our attention, creating these protected blocks of focus time is absolutely paramount for any meaningful progress. Distractions, whether they're internal, like your mind wandering, or external, like a phone buzzing or someone interrupting you, they break your concentration. They force your brain to constantly reorient itself, depleting your energy and shattering your focus, as we discussed with the signs of wasted time. So, by proactively, intentionally eliminating as many potential distractions as possible before you start, you protect your most valuable cognitive asset, your attention, and you unlock your full potential for learning, creating, or producing during that scheduled time.
Setting those boundaries can definitely be tough, especially with family or colleagues, but it sounds absolutely necessary if you want to protect that precious, focused time. It's an investment in your own goals. Okay, so the environment is set. We're in our quiet, distraction-free zone, phone off or away. People know not to disturb us. What's step 4? The guide says, use your time with intention. What exactly does that mean in practice during that 10 or 15 minutes?
It means engaging fully, actively, and with purpose. It's about the quality of your engagement during that time block. The guide unpacks this by saying, be present, focus, don't just sit, act. It's a clear call to active participation, transforming passive physical presence into active mental engagement. It's not enough to simply show up at your desk or your study space at the scheduled time. You have to be mentally there, fully engaged, and actively applying yourself to the task related to your goal. The example the guide provides perfectly illustrates this for someone learning a skill, particularly the English language learner example it uses throughout. If you have 15 minutes, use all 15. Speak out loud, listen, repeat, write. Notice how all those verbs are active. Speak, listen, actively, not passively, repeat, write. This emphasizes active engagement over just passively consuming information. So if you're learning, don't just passively reread a grammar rule you already kind of know. Try to actively vocalize it, create new sentences using it, practice it in context. Don't just listen to a podcast or audio lesson. Listen for specific things, new vocabulary, pronunciation nuances, sentence structures. Maybe repeat phrases out loud to work on your accent and muscle memory. Write down new words or concepts to help solidify your understanding. This kind of active, intentional engagement ensures that every single minute you dedicate is maximized for learning and progress. It pushes you out of your comfort zone slightly and into that state of deep work or deliberate practice where the most significant learning and skill development actually occur. It's fundamentally about the quality and intensity of your attention and effort during that time, not just the quantity of minutes you've allocated on your schedule. It's the difference between merely being in the room with your materials and actually participating fully with them.
That's powerful. So it's not just clocking in the time. It's about the intensity and effectiveness of the engagement during that time, really using the minutes, not just letting them pass while you're physically present. Okay, that makes sense. And finally, the guide gives us step 5. Track your time. How does that work, and why is that important for staying on this journey? It sounds a bit like admin work.
Track your time is actually a simple yet incredibly effective feedback loop. It's a way to visualize your progress, maintain accountability to yourself, and build motivation. It's less about burdensome admin and more about self-awareness and reinforcement. The method proposed is very clear and low-tech. Keep a notebook. Right. Today I studied for 15 minutes. Or use a simple app or a calendar check mark, whatever works for you. Now, this isn't about micromanaging every second of your entire day, which would be overwhelming and counterproductive. It's specifically about tracking your dedicated, intentional time spent working towards your defined goal, that 10, 15, or 30 minutes you scheduled. The benefits are immediate and tangible, as the guide points out. See your progress, it feels good, and it really does. This simple visual representation of your consistency, seeing those check marks add up, or the list of completed sessions grow provides immense motivation. You see the tangible accumulation of your efforts. Those small daily blocks of 10 or 15 minutes suddenly look significant when you see them strung together over days and weeks. It powerfully reinforces the habit and encourages you to keep going, especially on days when motivation might be flagging. It transforms an abstract goal, learn English, into a series of visible, concrete achievements. I studied for 15 minutes today, creating a positive feedback loop. And crucially, the guide also addresses how to use tracking to handle setbacks constructively. And when you don't study, ask, what happened? Learn from it, then start again tomorrow. This isn't about self-criticism or spiraling into guilt if you miss a day. It's framed as an opportunity for self-awareness and building resilience. It prompts you to pause and identify the barrier. Was the schedule unrealistic that day? Did an unexpected distraction derail you? Were you just too tired? You can learn from that without judgment. Understanding what went wrong allows you to adjust your approach if needed, maybe tweak your schedule, or plan better for distractions next time, and then simply recommit to starting again the next day. No drama, just learning. This continuous improvement mindset ensures that minor lapses don't derail your entire journey. Instead, they become valuable data points, opportunities for learning and adaptation. Tracking your time provides that data, and that data helps you refine your strategy, stay motivated, and importantly, celebrate your cumulative wins along the way.
All right, so tracking isn't about judgment, it's about data and motivation. Seeing the progress, understanding the bumps, and getting back on track. Those 5 steps really are remarkably simple when you lay them out like that. Set a goal, make a schedule, remove distractions, use time intentionally, track your time. Yet when you put them together consistently, they create this powerful self-reinforcing system for truly reclaiming your time and directing it effectively. It's about building structure, removing the friction that leads to inaction, using your focused time wisely, and staying accountable and motivated along the way. So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? It really means that taking these clear, actionable steps, even starting with just 10 tiny minutes a day, can genuinely transform how you experience your days and ultimately how quickly and effectively you move towards the goals that matter most to you.
Absolutely. And that transformation, that shift towards more intentional living, it doesn't always require radical, sweeping overhauls of your entire life, which can feel overwhelming. The guide makes this whole process feel even more achievable and less daunting by suggesting some direct, actionable changes through simple substitutions for common time-wasting activities we identified earlier. It's a really brilliant approach, I think, because it's not about suddenly stopping everything you enjoy or trying to force yourself into some completely new alien routine overnight. Instead, it focuses on making small, positive swaps, trading a less beneficial habit for a more beneficial one. These small swaps feel less disruptive, less intimidating, and therefore much more likely to stick.
That's where it becomes less overwhelming, isn't it? Not trying to add a bunch of new things necessarily, but strategically replacing some existing, less helpful habits with better ones. Small, manageable changes that can build up over time. What are some of those easy swaps the guide suggests we could try?
Exactly. It meets you where you are. The first one is a classic and probably relevant for almost all of us in the modern world, a screen time swap. The suggestion is, instead of watching 30 minutes of random videos, watch 10 minutes of English learning, or whatever your goal-related activity is. This beautifully illustrates the principle of small, manageable swaps. You're not being told to eliminate all enjoyable screen time entirely, which might be unrealistic or even undesirable for relaxation, but you're consciously choosing to redirect just a portion of that time towards growth. You're leveraging an existing habit pattern, sitting down to watch something and gently nudging it in a more productive direction. It connects directly back to that start small, 10 minutes is great idea we discussed in the goal setting step. It makes the beneficial activity feel very accessible because it fits into a time slot you were likely using anyway. And it's less likely to meet internal resistance because you're modifying an existing behavior rather than trying to create a completely new one from scratch. It's like a subtle shift, a sort of microdosing of productive activity into your existing daily routine.
I like that microdosing productivity. So it's about mindful consumption and strategic redirection of existing time blocks, not about deprivation or adding more stress. What's the next swap the guide offers as an example?
The second example is a potentially powerful morning routine swap, which, if it fits your lifestyle, can truly set a positive and productive tone for your entire day. The suggestion is, so instead of sleeping late every day, wake up 30 minutes earlier and study, or work on your project, or exercise, or whatever aligns with your goal. This highlights the often underestimated power of utilizing those early morning hours. For many people, waking up just a bit earlier, even 15 or 30 minutes, can create this incredibly valuable, dedicated, and usually distraction-free block of time. It's often before the main demands of the day kick in, before the emails start flooding your inbox, before family members need your attention, before the world really wakes up. This quiet, undisturbed period can be absolutely ideal for focused learning or deep work because your mind is often fresher, your willpower reserves are higher, and external interruptions are typically minimal. It's a time you can truly claim as your own, investing in yourself and your priorities before the world starts making demands on your time and energy. Even just 15 or 30 minutes of focused effort in the morning can be surprisingly productive, often more so than trying to squeeze the same activity in later in the day when you're already mentally fatigued or dealing with constant interruptions. It's about proactively building a sacred time for your growth into your daily structure.
That's a great strategy for deliberately carving out that quiet, focused time before the day's inevitable chaos begins. Protecting that first part of the day for yourself. Smart. And the last swap the guide mentions is a really important one because it's not about external actions or schedules, it's a mindset swap. Instead of thinking, I'm not good, say, I am learning one step at a time. This feels like it underpins everything else.
It really does. This is perhaps the most crucial internal shift we need to make, and it directly addresses those self-limiting beliefs that can sabotage our efforts before we even start. It's about cultivating what Dr. Carol Dweck famously termed a growth mindset. Negative self-talk, that persistent inner critic whispering things like, I'm not smart enough for this, or I'll never be good at languages, or what's the point, I always give up anyway, can be a huge, often silent obstacle. It paralyzes action. By consciously, deliberately replacing thoughts like, I'm not good, with a statement like, I am learning one step at a time, you are fundamentally reframing your entire experience. You acknowledge that learning or achieving any significant goal is inherently a process. It's a journey with inevitable ups and downs, challenges and setbacks. It's not about reaching some immediate state of perfection, which is impossible anyway. This simple linguistic shift emphasizes incremental progress over the crushing pressure of trying to achieve some impossible ideal right away. It fosters resilience because setbacks become part of the learning process, not evidence of inadequacy. It encourages continued effort even when things feel difficult, and it builds essential self-compassion, allowing you to be kind to yourself during the struggle. It's about reframing your entire journey as a series of small, manageable, achievable steps and learning to celebrate those tiny victories along the way rather than being constantly overwhelmed or discouraged by the entire mountain you aim to climb. It shifts your focus from a fixed, often discouraging view of your current abilities, I'm not good, to a dynamic, hopeful, and empowering perspective of continuous improvement. I am learning. And this really raises an important question, doesn't it? How much of our true potential is actually unlocked when we consciously redirect not just our external time and energy through schedules and swaps, but also our internal energy through these crucial mindset shifts? It could be enormous. Ultimately, the core message threaded throughout this deep dive, drawn directly from the insights in the Stop Wasting Your Time guide, is both profound and deeply empowering. Your time is your power. Use it with care. It serves as such a potent reminder that every single one of us, without exception, no matter our circumstances, has the exact same 24 hours in a day. It's the great equalizer. The guide puts it so simply but powerfully towards the end. You have 24 hours just like everyone else. Use 15 minutes for your English. Use 10 minutes to read. Use your time for your future. This isn't about needing grand gestures or finding huge chunks of free time or making radical, unsustainable overhauls to your life. It's about the deliberate, consistent accumulation of small, intentional choices made day after day. So consider this as we wrap up. How might these seemingly small, consistent investments in your time, those 10 minutes here, that swapped activity there, how might they be about more than just achieving specific isolated goals? How might they be fundamentally shaping the very person you are becoming, inch by intentional inch, choice by conscious choice? What tiny intentional action, no matter how seemingly insignificant it feels right now, will you commit to taking today, just today, that your future self, looking back, will undoubtedly thank you for?
That's the perfect thought to leave us with. It truly is about building your future self, one intentional minute, one focused hour, one productive day at a time. And as the guide beautifully concludes, there are these simple, powerful, and truly actionable takeaways for all of us, lessons we can carry forward starting right now from this deep dive. Why speak English out loud? Or whatever your active practice looks like. Wield your habits through goals, schedules, consistency. Don't wait for motivation? Take action today, even small action. These aren't just suggestions. They really feel like an invitation, a clear roadmap to taking conscious control of your most precious, non-renewable resource. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into understanding and mastering your time. We sincerely hope these insights have maybe sparked something, inspired you to look at your minutes and hours with fresh eyes, and encouraged you to use them intentionally to grow, to learn, and to actively build the future you envision for yourself. Keep exploring your own sources, keep asking those insightful questions that lead to discovery, and keep diving deep into the topics that matter most to you. If this deep dive resonated with you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss future ones. Maybe leave us a comment with your thoughts or your own time strategies, and perhaps share the deep dive with anyone else in your life who values informed insights and practical wisdom. We look forward to our next deep dive with you. Until then, keep making the most of your time.